My parents took me to court over my sister's lawyer. Seconds after I revealed my son's cancer treatment, their world collapsed. My parents took me to court because I refused to use my savings for my sister's lawyer. But when the judge heard the truth about my son's cancer treatment, their world fell apart. Your Honor, my daughter has deliberately withheld funds that could save her sister from prison. That's a lie. That money is for my son's cancer treatment. She's being selfish and vindictive. We demand access to her accounts immediately. You people are unbelievable. First you steal from me, now you're trying to. Hi, I'm Flora. Today, I'm going to tell you my story. But before I continue, please like, share, and subscribe to hear more stories like this. You know how they say blood is thicker than water? Well, sometimes that blood can poison you from the inside out. 3 months ago, I was sitting in my living room in Denver, Colorado, watching my 8-year-old son Mason work on his homework, when I got a call that changed everything. Flora, it's Mom. You need to come home right now. What's wrong? Is Dad okay? Just come and bring your checkbook. That should have been my first red flag, but I drove the 3 hours to my childhood home in Colorado Springs anyway. When I walked in, I found my parents, my sister Jessica, and a man in an expensive suit sitting around the dining table where we used to have Sunday dinners. Who's this? I asked, setting down my purse. I'm Christopher Wells, your sister's attorney, the man said, standing to shake my hand. Attorney for what? Jessica wouldn't meet my eyes. She just stared at her perfectly manicured nails while Mom cleared her throat. Jessica's been accused of something she didn't do. Assault and stalking. It's all a misunderstanding, but we need $60,000 for legal fees. $60,000? Are you serious? The other party has deep pockets, Christopher explained. We need to match their resources if we want to win this case. Dad finally spoke up. We've already refinanced the house and maxed out our credit cards. You're our only hope, Flora. I felt my stomach drop. You refinanced the house without telling me? We didn't want to worry you, Mom said. But now we need your help. Family helps family. I don't have $60,000 just lying around. Don't lie to us, Jessica finally snapped, looking up with those cold blue eyes I knew too well. I know about your savings account, the one you've been building for years. How do you know about that? She shrugged. I have my ways. That money isn't for you. It's for Mason's treatment. Who's Mason? Christopher asked. My 8-year-old son. He has acute lymphoblastic leukemia. That money is for an experimental treatment at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia that insurance won't cover. The room went quiet for a moment before Mom broke the silence. Flora, I'm sure Mason will be fine, but Jessica could go to prison. Is that what you want for your sister? What I want is for my son to live. But would my family understand? And what lengths would they go to get that money? You're being dramatic, Dad said. Kids bounce back from these things. Jessica's future is at stake here. I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the hardwood floor. Are you seriously telling me my son's life is less important than Jessica avoiding consequences for her actions? She's innocent. Mom shouted. Is she? Because last I checked, innocent people don't need $60,000 lawyers. Jessica stood up too, her face twisted with rage. You've always been jealous of me. Just because your life is miserable doesn't mean you get to ruin mine. Jealous of what? Your 4 failed relationships? Your 6 maxed out credit cards? The fact that Mom and Dad have been bailing you out since you were 17. At least I didn't get pregnant in college and drop out. At least I take responsibility for my choices. Christopher cleared his throat. Perhaps we should all calm down and discuss this rationally. There's nothing to discuss, I said, grabbing my purse. I'm not giving you a cent. Mom grabbed my arm as I headed for the door. Flora, please. We're begging you. No. And don't call me again until you're ready to apologize for even asking. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, I was at Denver Children's Hospital with Mason during one of his chemotherapy sessions when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Miss Flora Martinez. This is Officer Johnson with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. You've been served. Please check your front door for the summons. Served for what? I'm not at liberty to discuss the details, ma'am. Have a good day. I called my neighbor Margaret, who confirmed there was indeed an envelope taped to my door. When I finally got home that night, after tucking an exhausted Mason into bed, I opened it with trembling hands. My parents were suing me. The next morning, I sat in the office of Michael Rodriguez, the only lawyer I could afford on my teacher's salary. His small practice was squeezed between a Starbucks and a boutique in downtown Denver. They're claiming financial elder abuse, Michael read from the papers, his eyebrows raised. They say you have a pattern of withholding financial support despite having the means to help. They're not elderly. Mom's 56 and Dad's 58. I see. And this sister of yours, the one who needs the lawyer, what's she accused of? Assault and stalking. Though knowing Jessica, it's probably true. Has she been arrested? Not yet. That's why they want the money, to get ahead of it. Michael leaned back in his worn leather chair. In my experience, when people sue family members for money, there's usually more to the story. Tell me about your relationship with them. So I did. I told him about growing up as the responsible one while Jessica got away with everything. How I'd worked 2 jobs to put myself through the University of Colorado while Jessica dropped out of 3 different colleges on Mom and Dad's dime. How they'd missed my graduation because Jessica had a crisis that turned out to be a bad breakup. How they'd forgotten Mason's birthday every year, but never missed Jessica's elaborate parties. And now they want you to sacrifice your son's medical treatment for her legal fees? Exactly. We'll fight this, but I need to warn you, family court can get ugly. He wasn't kidding. But I had no idea just how ugly it was about to get. The first hearing was a month later. I walked into the Jefferson County Courthouse to find not just my parents and Jessica, but also my Aunt Helen, Uncle Mark, and several cousins filling the gallery. Quite the family reunion, Michael murmured. My parents' lawyer, a sharp woman named Victoria Reynolds, painted me as a cold, selfish daughter who'd abandoned her family in their time of need. She brought up every birthday gift I'd ever given, every family dinner I'd attended, trying to prove I had more money than I claimed. Miss Martinez owns her home outright, does she not? Victoria asked during her opening statement. Objection, Michael said. Relevance. It speaks to the defendant's financial situation, Your Honor. Judge William Thompson, a stern man with graying hair, adjusted his glasses. I'll allow it. She also drives a Lexus, Victoria continued. I wanted to scream that it was a 10-year-old car I'd bought used after my divorce. But Michael had told me to stay quiet. When it was our turn, Michael calmly presented Mason's medical records, treatment plans, and the estimated costs for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia protocol. Your Honor, my client's son is fighting for his life. Every dollar in that savings account represents hope for his future. Allegedly, Victoria interrupted. We haven't seen proof of the savings account. Judge Thompson looked over his glasses at me. Miss Martinez, are you willing to provide bank statements? Your Honor, Michael said, that would be a violation of my client's privacy. It would also settle the matter of whether these funds exist and what they're earmarked for. I felt trapped. If I showed them the statements, they'd know exactly how much I had. If I didn't, I'd look like I was hiding something. I'll provide them, I said quietly. That night, Mason was too sick to eat the grilled cheese sandwich I'd made. As I held his hair back while he threw up, he looked at me with those big brown eyes that looked so much like his father's. Mom, am I going to die? No, baby. No. We're going to get you to Philadelphia and you're going to get better. Promise. I promise. But could I keep that promise? And what would I discover about Jessica's case that would change everything? The next hearing was worse. Victoria had gone through my bank statements with a fine-tooth comb. Your Honor, the defendant has $85,000 in savings, more than enough to help her sister and still have funds for her son's treatment. That's not true, I stood up, ignoring Michael's hand on my arm. The treatment costs $140,000, not including travel and accommodation. I'm still saving. Sit down, Miss Martinez, Judge Thompson said sternly. But I couldn't. Not when I saw the smirk on Jessica's face. You want to know why Jessica really needs a lawyer? I said, my voice shaking. Ask her about Amanda Chun. Ask her about the restraining order. Ask her about... That's enough. The judge banged his gavel. Mr. Rodriguez, control your client or I'll hold her in contempt. Michael pulled me back down, but the damage was done. Or so I thought. During the break, a woman approached me in the hallway. She was about my age with blonde hair and nervous eyes. You're Flora Martinez? Yes. I'm Amanda Chun. I heard what you said in there about Jessica. My heart stopped. You're the one pressing charges? She nodded. I've been following the case. I couldn't believe it when I heard your parents were suing you to pay for her defense. Why are you here? Because I think you should know the truth. Your sister didn't just assault me once. She's been stalking me for 18 months. Ever since I started dating her ex-fiancé, Ryan. I have documentation of everything. Would you be willing to testify? I can't. My lawyer says it could jeopardize our criminal case. She pulled out a flash drive. But this is everything. Police reports, text messages, photos of my injuries. Maybe it'll help. When court resumed, Michael submitted the flash drive as evidence. Victoria objected, saying it was prejudicial and irrelevant to the financial abuse claim. Your Honor, Michael argued, it speaks to whether the plaintiffs are acting in good faith. They're asking my client to fund the defense of someone with a documented history of violence. Judge Thompson reviewed the files during another recess. When he came back, his face was grim. I've seen enough. This case is dismissed. Your Honor, Victoria protested. My clients have suffered real financial hardship, which they brought upon themselves by refinancing their home for a daughter who, based on this evidence, appears to be guilty of the crimes she's accused of. I will not force Miss Martinez to choose between her son's life and her sister's poor choices. Case dismissed. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt hollow because Mason's condition was worsening and now I was running out of time. But our fight was just beginning. What would happen when I discovered the true extent of Jessica's crimes? And would I be able to save Mason in time? 2 weeks after winning the case, I sat in Dr. Jennifer Walsh's office at Denver Children's Hospital, Mason's small hand in mine. The cancer has progressed faster than we anticipated, Dr. Walsh said gently. We need to get him to Children's Hospital of Philadelphia within the month or... She didn't need to finish. I knew what she meant. That night, after Mason fell asleep, I did something I'd never thought I'd do. I started a GoFundMe page, swallowing my pride and sharing our story. The response was overwhelming. My fellow teachers, my neighbors, even strangers who'd heard about the court case donated. Mrs. Patterson from next door brought over a tuna casserole and a check for $500. That boy of yours has been helping me with my groceries all summer, she said with tears in her eyes. It's time I paid him back. My principal, David Chun, organized a fundraiser at Lincoln High School, where I taught English. Students I'd had years ago came back to donate their allowances and part-time job earnings. You helped me pass AP English when I thought I was going to fail, said Rachel, now a college sophomore. Let me help Mason now. Within 2 weeks, we'd raised the remaining $55,000 I needed. The day before we were scheduled to leave for Philadelphia, I got a call from Helen. Flora, it's your aunt. I wanted you to know your parents lost the house. What? They couldn't make the mortgage payments without your help. And Jessica's in jail. She took a plea deal for 2 years. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. And I was surprised to find I meant it. Not sorry enough to help, but sorry that they'd made such terrible choices. Your mom wants to talk to you. No. Flora, please. She's staying with me, and she's a mess. She talks about Mason all the time, about how she failed you both. Helen, they tried to sacrifice my son's life for Jessica's crimes. There's no coming back from that. Family is family, Flora. No, family doesn't do what they did. Mason is my family. The neighbors who helped us are my family. You all made your choice. I hung up and finished packing. But as our plane lifted off from Denver International Airport, I wondered, was I doing the right thing? And what would we find at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia? 6 months later, I sat in a hospital room at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, watching Mason play Minecraft on his tablet. The experimental treatment was working. His white blood cell count had normalized, and the doctors were cautiously optimistic. "Mom, look," Mason said excitedly. "I built a castle with a moat and everything." His cheeks were pink with health instead of the pale yellow they'd been for months. His hair was growing back in soft brown waves. My phone buzzed with a text from Margaret. "Saw your mom at King Soopers. She was using food stamps. Karma is something, isn't it?" I didn't reply. I was too busy watching my son laugh at something on his screen, more animated than he'd been in over a year. Another text came through from an unknown number. "Flora, this is Mom. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I wanted you to know Dad left me. He says he can't forgive me for losing the house. I'm living in Helen's basement. I'm sorry for everything. Can we please talk?" I blocked the number. Then came one more from a different unknown number. "This is Jessica. I get out in 18 months. When I do, you're going to pay for what you did to me." I screenshot that one and sent it to Michael just in case. But sitting there watching Mason beat another level in his game, I realized something. They'd already lost everything that mattered. Their house, their relationships, their reputation. Jessica had a criminal record that would follow her forever. Mom and Dad were alone and broke. Meanwhile, I had my son. I had true friends who'd shown up when it mattered. I had a community that had literally saved my child's life. "Mom," Mason said, pausing his game. "Are you okay? You're crying." "Happy tears, baby. Just happy tears." "Because I'm getting better?" "Because we're together and that's all that matters." He smiled and went back to his game. Outside the window, I could see the Philadelphia skyline, and for the first time in months, the future looked bright. But our story wasn't over yet. What would happen when we returned to Denver? And would my family ever truly understand what they'd lost? 1 year later, we were back in Denver. Mason was in remission, his hair thick and wavy, his energy boundless. We'd moved to a smaller house. I'd sold the old one to help pay for ongoing medical expenses, but it felt more like home than anywhere we'd ever lived. Mason was thriving in 4th grade, and I was back to teaching. Though now I also volunteered with families facing childhood cancer diagnoses. My phone buzzed with a message from Amanda Chun. "Thought you should know. Jessica got out early for good behavior, but she's already violated her parole. Back inside for another year. Some people never learn." I couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the universe has a way of balancing the scales. That evening, as Mason and I made spaghetti and meatballs together, his favorite meal since his appetite had returned, he asked me a question that stopped me cold. "Mom, do you ever miss Grandma and Grandpa?" I thought carefully before answering. "I miss the people I thought they were. But Mason, sometimes people show you who they really are, and when they do, you have to believe them. Even family. Especially family. The people who love you would never ask you to choose between them and something you need to survive." He nodded solemnly, then brightened. "But we have Margaret next door and Mr. Chun from your school and all the people who helped us." "Yes, we do. Sometimes your real family isn't the one you're born into. It's the one you choose." Later that night, after Mason had fallen asleep reading Harry Potter, I sat on our small front porch with a cup of tea. Margaret waved from her garden where she was tending to the roses she'd planted in honor of Mason's recovery. My phone rang. Another unknown number. "Flora, this is Helen. Your mother. She's in the hospital. Heart attack. She's asking for you." I felt a familiar tightness in my chest. "Is she going to be okay?" "They think so. But Flora, I know what happened between you all, but she's changed. Losing everything, losing Dad. It broke something in her. She talks about Mason all the time, about how she failed you both." I closed my eyes. "Helen, I hope Mom gets better. I really do. But Mason and I have a good life now. We're happy and healthy and surrounded by people who love us unconditionally. I can't go back to that toxicity." "But family." "Family doesn't sue you to steal money meant to save your child's life. Family doesn't choose a criminal over a sick grandchild. My real family is here, and they showed up when it mattered." After I hung up, I thought about forgiveness. People always say you should forgive family. That holding grudges is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. But sometimes I think forgiveness is just another word for enabling. Sometimes protecting yourself and the ones you love means building walls so high that even blood can't climb them. My parents and Jessica had made their choices. They'd chosen greed over compassion, manipulation over love, and Jessica's consequences over Mason's life. Now they were living with those choices. And me? I was living too. Really living. For the first time in my life, I was free from their toxicity, their demands, their twisted version of family loyalty. Mason appeared in the doorway in his pajamas. "Mom, I had a bad dream." "Come here, baby." He curled up next to me on the porch swing and I wrapped my arms around him. "Mom." "Yeah. I'm glad it's just us." "Well, us and all the people who really care about us." "Me too, Mason. Me too." "So I have to ask you, if you were in my shoes, watching your child fight for their life while your family demanded money for a sibling's self-inflicted legal troubles, what would you have done? Would you have given in to keep the peace?" Sometimes, the people who are supposed to love you most are the ones who hurt you worst. But sometimes, if you're lucky, you find your real family along the way. The people who show up not because they have to, but because they want to. The people who would never ask you to choose between them and your child's life. Those are the people worth fighting for. Those are the people worth living for. And that's how I learned that sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you're born into.